Hey, it's Chris Gately, Gately Properties, your friend in the real estate business. And as of the first of the year, there's a brand new requirement. When you go to sell your house, you must disclose how fire ready it is. In other words, the home hardiness. Now, there's certain levels and thresholds that need to be met for you not to give this disclosure, but just assume it's probably going to be required. The only ones that aren't required is if your home was built after 2010, because there was actually a law passed that would require fire sprinklers in your home. And then if your home is not considered in a high fire area. Those are the two reasons that you don't have to disclose this or add this additional statutory disclosure when you go to sell your house. But most of California is going to have that requirement. As you know, we are in a very high fire area, and those maps do change every once in a while. So I actually have a special guest coming on today. So I am meeting right now with Carolyn Braun of First American Natural Hazard Zone Disclosure, and she is going to kind of tell us about the disclosure, what needs to be disclosed, and how do they determine if you are in a high fire severity zone and need to disclose. So Carolyn, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So Carolyn, I mean, your job's already busy because you've got to disclose so many things in California. This is a brand new disclosure. Can you explain how it works? I mean, I know that we have to fill out a form, but what needs to be disclosed?
Okay, so as of January 1st, 2001, we have a new Assembly Bill, which is now Assembly Bill 38, which is a law that requires the disclosure of any properties that sit in a high or very high fire severity zone. And in the past with the NHD, we were only legally required to disclose very high and then wildland. So now we have this new disclosure called high fire, and that has come to fruition because of all the mega fires that we've had over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this Assembly Bill came in, Assembly Bill 38. And how it works is if the property sits in a high or very high fire zone, that's now going to trigger a new CAR form, a new disclosure called HHDA, Home Hardening Disclosure and Advisory. It's not only a disclosure, but it's also an advisory to any potential buyers.
Where do you get your information on whether the home is in a very high or high fire danger area?
Yeah, well, we currently, First American has always used the official maps from CAL FIRE. These maps have not been updated since 2008. They were required to get updated by the end of 2020. But as you can see with COVID and everything going on, there has been a delay with updating these maps. So we are using the maps from 2008, and we do use the official maps that come from CAL FIRE.
This doesn't trigger while you're in the property. It only triggers when you go to sell the property.
That's correct.
So that's a nice thing for sellers right now. Just know if you're trying to sell and maybe in a higher fire zone, you just don't want to do extra disclosures. Here's the opportunity to get it out before they change the map on you.
You know what? The maps are coming. They're coming this spring, and I can almost guarantee you there's going to be a lot of homes put into these new fire zones. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just best buyer to let the buyer know, that, yeah, hey, you're sitting in a high fire zone or you're sitting in a very high fire zone. And there are certain requirements that follow the HHDA. And this really...
I was going to say, and this is going to be something that's enclosed in every single NHD we order from First American, correct?
That's correct. So the statutory form doesn't change. The first page of the form still has the original 6 natural hazard zones: fire, or flood determination, high fire, wildland fire, earthquake, and landslide seismic. Where you're going to find it in our report is on our summary page. We've done a really good job. When you go to our summary page, it says additional statutory disclosures. And right below that, it says Assembly Bill 38, very high fire severity zone. And it's going to say in or out. And then it's going to say it's a high or it's a very high. Yeah. And so the key to this is if the property was built prior to 2010, that and sits in a fire zone, it's going to trigger the new HHDA for the seller to disclose. Okay, these are properties built prior to 2010.
Correct.
And that is because they made some new, back in 2010, they had some new building codes come into fruition, and
yeah, the fire sprinklers are now required as of 2010. Any new homes built in 2010 require the installation of fire sprinklers within the property, which obviously reduces the overall spread of fire, because if the fire starts in your house, it's less likely to spread to other homes or wild brush, or vice versa. If your home catches fire, it's not going to catch others on fire.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
A perfect example of this is back a few years ago. I don't know if you remember, they had the big Santa Rosa fires where that just went in and wiped out whole neighborhoods. Well, those homes built prior to 2010 were all wiped out. And we actually have a snapshot of a little house that someone had purchased a lot, built this home to code, obviously, and that's the only house that was standing after all that devastation. So it just goes to show you that these codes and these improvements are really important.
Correct. Yeah. Like I always argue for the earthquake zones. A lot of homes built after 94 have a completely different setup as far as their building codes that they were required to do than those built before 94. I think 77 is another one too. So, well, yes. I appreciate you taking your time and talking to us about this, because I mean, it's important as a seller and even as a buyer that you know what needs to be disclosed, and that you need to know, go in with your eyes open on what you're purchasing, because I'm sure that now once the fire maps get redrawn, you're also going to have insurance issues. But that's a whole different one. We can talk to Carol, SCV Insurance, and and talk about that one, because when those fire maps are drawn, you're probably going to have a little call from your insurance company to.
Yeah, I'm not the expert when it comes to homeowners insurance, just when it comes to NHD.
Yeah, not me either. Yeah, no. I leave that to the experts who are in that field every day. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. Well, that just about wraps it up. Thank you again to Carolyn Braun from First American Natural Hazard Zone Disclosure for coming on to the show. If you have any questions and you need them answered, please feel free to ask them. You can message us or put them down in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.